And there is some Husker news of note to kind of keep tabs on because the transfer portal remains open. Husker players have roughly until the first week of January that they can still technically enter the portal.
January 2, Sean.
But the big news is there's a transfer portal window to bring visitors on from January 3rd through 7th. The regular dead period in recruiting ends after that a week later. But that 3rd through 7th, we already know that Oregon running back Dante Dowdell is going to come in to Nebraska on an official visit, as Nebraska is, kicking the tires on Dowdell, who was a former top running back in the country, is going to leave Oregon after 1 year because the Ducks returned their top 2 running backs who rushed for almost 1,800 yards this past season, or more than 1,800 yards. So the opportunities in Eugene are limited. So Dowdell will be here. But the other one is they're in the market, as you know, Steve Sipple, for a wide receiver. Jamal Banks confirmed to me on Christmas night that he is talking to Nebraska about getting the visit set up to come in the weekend of January 5th. This was a preseason all-ACC first-team wideout.
Hello.
Didn't have quite that level of a year. Banks has 107 catches for 1,404 yards and 13 touchdowns over his career. He has 2 years of eligibility remaining. He's gone over 600 yards each of the last 2 seasons. Michigan is involved, as is Purdue, Minnesota, West Virginia. Now, it's unknown if the Wolverines are treating him as a plan A priority, or is he kind of like a plan B guy? I would say for Nebraska, he's a plan A option in the portal.
He's 6'4", 205 pounds, and they say, good red zone receiver because of his body control and height. I read in your story there was a scout that said one area of concern is he doesn't get a lot of separation. But yeah, once again, in Nebraska's room, he would stand out because he's a proven commodity. Sean, I think he had 59 catches this year, which isn't bad. But yeah, you mentioned his numbers again: 6'4", 205 for Jamal Banks. For Dante Dowdell, 6'2", 218. And as you know, it's just my personal opinion, which doesn't mean that much, but I like Rule continuing to bring in bigger players. When I cringe when I see 5'9", 180. Not in the Big Ten. You can do it. There's guys who can do it. There's exceptions to all these rules, but I don't know.
Like you can find a Wan'Dale Robinson.
Yeah, you can. But when you look at Ohio State and Michigan, do you see 5'9", 180 anywhere?
On the perimeter, probably not.
No, you don't.
In the slot and the all-purpose role, yes, but not on the perimeters.
No, you don't even see it. You don't really see it at all.
Because the 50, okay, you don't.
Oh, I'm saying
you don't get wide open in the Big Ten very often.
Right.
So what happens? It's a lot of 50-50 balls, a lot of balls where you're going to have to fight to get off the line of scrimmage. You're going to have to fight to get up in the air to get the ball. And size matters in those situations in the red zone.
Yeah. Okay. I know what you can do. You can do it. Listeners can do it. Oh, what about player X? He's 5 foot. There's exceptions. Of course, there's exceptions. But generally speaking, and those top tier teams in the Big Ten, how many little running backs and little receivers do you see? I watch them. You don't see them. You don't see them.
Like Kenny Bell was a great receiver, and he wasn't huge, but he'd be big on this Nebraska team.
Yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't that big. Wasn't that big. He's big. He was probably what he goes 6'1", probably 190, 195.
6'1", 6'2", but yeah, he wasn't like fit. He wasn't built like a Nunwa.
Yeah, it wasn't like a Nunwa. Or Julian Fleming. Julian Fleming's a pretty big receiver.
Now, Julian Fleming has not announced, but seems like it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to Penn State.
Yeah. Seems like is he could he be one of those guys who just shows up?
Yeah, campus? And that's there was some. There was like a Insta story, if you like to do that kind of detective work on social media, where a posting from a state college car dealership or something, something like that, where it kind of showed that he's in state college. So we'll see if that all plays out. Nebraska's players report back on January 14th.
Yep.
Classes begin though on the 22nd. So it's a late. These kids get like a 6-week break now. From campus.
We got pretty long break back in the day too, though.
Not 6, so it was more like 4.
Was it?
So they've squeezed in a mini session of classes that you can take over the break.
Okay.
And so it Because if you remember, we started school the week before Martin Luther King Day, because you always got that Monday off.
Yeah.
They start school the Monday now after Martin Luther King Day.
You have a remarkable memory. Yeah, so key dates, like you said, January 14th, Nebraska players return to campus, report back. And then January 22nd, school starts. And that's when players officially become transfers, officially become Huskers or wherever. They got to go to class. That would start the official clock.
Yeah, the 14th. Take part in some sort of informal team activity.
Right. So there you go.
A meeting or something.
You mentioned a couple other guys in your story about Jamal Banks, the receiver. You mentioned Donovan McCauley of Indiana.
Yeah, he's at least publicly acknowledged a Nebraska offer.
Okay.
But nothing seems to have materialized. Very few portal guys tweet their offers.
Right.
McCauley was. Now, Brazil, the receiver from Tulane.
Chris Brazil.
Is already committed to Tennessee.
He committed to Tennessee.
And like 40 teams reached out to him, and he did a graphic with On Three's Hayes Fawcett of all like 40 teams.
Did he really?
Yeah, and Nebraska was one of the teams.
Okay.
So, they are in the market, but as you know, with the portal, a lot of it is just so private.
That is.
I mean, they're just kids aren't really into the dog and pony show. They're into the money.
I'll tell you what's not, but your reporting, Sean, is critical. Those two players are critical in my mind. Not that they're program changing players. I'm not saying that. But Dante Dowdell and Jamal Banks would be guys that would come in and be helpful immediately. That's what transfer portal players are supposed to do.
Not looking to bring in a ton of transfer portal guys.
We can't really, can he?
A, the numbers, but B, he's doing a whole nother model now. It's identify, develop, retain.
Yep.
Where a lot of teams, like look at Texas women's volleyball.
Yeah.
They're taking more portal players. Like,
are they?
They won the national championship, and their recruiting class is essentially portal players. And John Cook is opposite of that.
Yeah.
So, everybody's doing it a little different.
That's right.
But yeah, you're seeing a lot of things. Like, how about this portal trend this week? Nick Scorton from Purdue entered the transfer portal.
That would be they play a 3-4. He was an outside linebacker. Great. I mean, he looked great against Nebraska. Think about if you go back, if people think I'm engaging in hyperbole, go back and watch the game and tell me what you see. He was a bear in that game.
And from what I gathered,
a bear.
He was, from talking to Tom Dienhart and others at Purdue, he was probably the highest paid guy on the roster.
I'm not surprised.
And he's looking for double that or more.
He'll get it.
And he will get it. There are some teams right now that are just blowing up the market of what the value is. Missouri. Look at Missouri, what they're doing. Every key transfer guy is considering Missouri.
Leave it to Missouri.
And Ole Miss, Missouri, A&M to an extent.
Doesn't Oregon engage in that?
Oregon to a level, but
because they got all that Nike money.
They aren't as adequate. Missouri right now, what they're doing, everyone's noticing.
It's like Marty Bird money, right?
I mean, some people didn't quite get our insider reference. If you didn't watch the Ozarks, Marty Bird was in Ozarks, Branson, Missouri. So we're making a reference that Marty Bird's drug cartel money is somehow being laundered to Missouri football.
Yeah, Marty Bird was a master money launderer. Master. And he's played by
Jason Bateman.
You're the man, Sean. Jason Bateman. But anyway, that's.
But yeah, Missouri, what they're doing is incredible, as is Ole Miss. Like the amount of guys that they're bringing in from the transfer portal and just everything out there, it's getting everyone's attention.
So weird. Hey, Sean. I mean, it is really weird out there. And bowl season in college football now basically encapsulates the weirdness of college football. I mean, you have teams like USC playing in the bowl game, in the Holiday Bowl. They're missing 24 players from their regular season roster. 24. Can you imagine covering a Nebraska team back in the day that was without 24 players during the bowl game because of opt-outs, injuries, etc.?
And that happened last year to Florida. They had a bunch of guys out. 24. I mean, and we'll talk about it in the next segment, but Lincoln Riley's still got to he still has to look, he still has to somehow get that team looking representable.